And Ryung's just like, easy. Planned this from the start. I actually put this curse on him 20 years ago, before he was even born, just to ensure, well, 21 years ago, I guess now, just to make sure that this one time in World Team League, I would win. You'll never beat me, Grandpa Ryung. It's too good for you. Something like that. That's how I imagine it going. If it ain't like that, then that's just straight up disappointing, isn't it? Top right is Ryung, bottom left is Reynor. Does Ryung just even do something straight up crazy as well? I think Ryung plays mech on this map. I would imagine Ryung plays mech with maybe even like a CC first opening, so very macro-y kind of opening, then just play mech afterwards. I could really see that being a just the way he goes about it. I think he knows trying to play against Reynor on such a large map is unrealistic when you're playing. You know, if you play Bio, you know Reynor's quick, you know he's extremely good at those kind of games, so you just don't really want to give him those opportunities. So yeah, I think even if you don't necessarily think mech is the best option, I think it might just be your best option here. World Team League sponsors. Thank you so much, of course, to all these wonderful organizations for helping keep one of, in my opinion, the coolest tournaments in StarCraft 2 going. Can't really get better than World Team League, man. Top tier players playing every single weekend. We've got the Masters Coliseum coming up as well, which is an extension of World Team League this year. World Team League points have qualified some players through. That's going to be in August/September. I actually have to check some dates on that. Because, yeah, I have to check some dates on that because there may be some tournament overlapping issues, but we'll make it work. Everyone wants to run tournaments, who would have guessed? How does this happen all the time, man? How do we always have issues with too many tournaments in StarCraft 2? It's incredible. It is, in fact, going to be that CC first from Ryung, if you've been watching the production tab, by the way, so he is going to open with that little bit of heavier economy as his starting point. And now we look to see whether or not he can take it to the next step. We'll be having now a few links coming up and our link speed coming in. Obviously, that's a pretty standard starting point from Reynor. Takes a third hatchery as well. No pressure to say he should do any other than that. Really is just a very standard way of getting going for him in these first few moments. Marines come through and a couple things will go down, but now already just seeing the fact that this is Marines, not a Reaper as well, is actually some good information. So these lings are definitely picking up a little bit of info at the very least as well, which is just a nice little bonus too. Just gonna see our link speed, a couple queens all coming out again. The initial build up here looking pretty respectable on both sides. No one's doing anything, you know, no one's doing the crazies. Although there's a second factory from Ryung, so maybe he is doing a little bit of the crazies, but is this the crazy, or is this kind of just what I was kind of thinking of Ryung, you know, doing anyway, right? Like, in my eyes, this is actually just kind of on brand for what I thought this game was going to be. Okay, there's obviously, you know, maybe not exactly this exact opening, but it's just one of the openings that can lead you into a mech game, right? And that's what I'm on about. I just feel like anything that can potentially lead him into a mech game is kind of fair game for Ryung in this one. It's absolutely just kind of the style he wants to play, the way he wants to play. So yeah, no surprises on my side to see this as our initial setup. It's going to be seen Overlord is coming in to try and pick up that information. We'll not see factory number 2 though. It was well hidden over in the corner here, so that will be a successful hideaway from our boy Ryung, and that's going to give him the best possible shot of at least having a chance, of course, during this. That is good information to have. Good to see. Like I say, playing it correctly so far. Ryung, I think, really does have to lean on his strategy here, more so than anything else, right? Mechanically, Reynor, we know, is one of the absolute very best in the world. So yeah, if you're Ryung, lean on your strategy, lean on your ability to maybe catch Reynor off guard. And that ain't, again, don't get me wrong, that is not easy. You do not become a world champion, back-to-back-to-back world championship finalist as Reynor without, you know, extremely good, you know, strategy yourself. You don't do that just off baseline mechanics. But, yeah, the mechanical part of it is something, and, you know, he will be very good mechanically, so I think it's good to sort of just try and play the strategic game instead, and stuff like this, definitely that. Again, we see our blue flame, we see our mech field on the way up, so setting fully into the battle mech to begin with. Our mech is still pretty quick, though. It's still pretty quick and active on the map, so you will sort of, you know, still go into something of a mechanical duel between the two of these players in the first little while. Hellions come across, Zergling going to go down already, just going to be having a few roaches and lings still gathering up in the center for a little while. Just going to be seeing that, yeah, Hellions, Marines just making their way across the map. Ryung has not done anything early because he didn't open Hellions, and that's just given Reynor already a bit of freedom. And you can see what that freedom has allowed him to do. Look at that creep spread, man. Like, this is not just magically out of nowhere. This is like, hey, you didn't build Hellions initially? Boom, my creep spread is just amazing this game. And that's the sort of thing that Reynor will do. That's why it's so tough playing against this guy. Azio, thank you so much, by the way. Bibby John for the 17-month resub. First Cyclones and a couple of cheeky lock-ons over here, so doing okay for themselves. I think it's fair to say. Definitely doing pretty alright as the Hellions actually going to try and break through the Evo Chamber wall off. Is going to be good to save the day, though. That's actually a little bit of a a great moment, because that could have been very problematic otherwise, right? So, actually is a pretty good catch. That is a pretty good block. Those Hellions in a mineral line would have absolutely caused a whole bunch of chaos, a whole bunch of trouble. We know that, so yeah, nice little move. Obviously, checking out the base. Reynor, with the roaches already being his kind of initial kind of start here, is now going to start following this up into, well, a little bit of something different with the Baneling Nest as well. Melee upgrade too, so he is going to play kind of just Ling Ravager Bane or Ling Roach Bane. In general against this, it's also a pretty standard way to play things. It's a pretty standard way to get things underway, so again, not really too surprising. For the first few moments as the Queen's getting locked onto, you kind of want to be on top of that, though. You know, be a little bit careful about moments like this where you perhaps let your opponent get a little bit too much done. A couple lock-ons that can chip their way through. It's definitely a little scary, so yeah, reason to be a little cautious here, I would say, as the Hellbats actually do help to get rid of a base down over there as well, so that's also a nice little A for effort on the side of Ryung, really, again, doing everything he can to make this as positive an experience for himself as he can do. So, yeah, can't say I'm disappointed with how Ryung is starting off playing. I like what he's getting done so far. I feel like he's putting himself into some good positions. And again, I say this mostly because, again, definitely expected Ryung to have a tough time here, so anytime he's actually looking pretty positive and pretty decent and getting damage done with the, you know, for example, these few Hellions, this is great. He's going to get rid of quite a lot of workers. However, there's a massive push coming, and he doesn't track this across the map, which means he doesn't get the heads up. He doesn't get that chance to necessarily kind of, you know, lock on and to kill a few units as they come across, which is usually what the battle mech aims for, but it looks as though Reynor has decided he's backing it up. He ain't going to commit here. Okay, that means we're going to stand back, and 14 drones going down. Reynor taking the hits. Doesn't find a chance to push into Ryung, and this means that the next time they might fight, Ryung might actually be very close to just getting maxed out, which is obviously a really great place for him to be. Maxed out, again, you know, as a mech player, although Swarm Host on the way from Reynor, so he's going to mix it up a little bit himself. He's obviously not going to let this go the most standard of directions just yet. He obviously has something to say about this as well as we keep this going. Units coming down this ramp, and Reynor is going to be able to push Ryung away for a couple of moments again. Just make sure that he doesn't get too much done. Just for the moment, keeping things, again, pretty well controlled for the most part. First Nidus pops up, and that means it's time to get in towards these Swarm Hosts. How will Ryung's response to the Swarm Host be? Is he going to be on top of this? Is this going to be something he can handle, or is this something that gets perhaps a little bit out of hand for him? Honestly, kind of like the question that I posed for myself here, because do you feel like this is potentially one of those maps where Swarm hosts can be good, and obviously swarm hosts at the start are always going to be problematic. The first time you see them, you're not necessarily aware they're going to be coming, so being in position is tough. From here on out, it becomes very important to see what the response looks like, though, from our boy Ryung, because this is the moment where you know what's happening. You know what's going on. You know what your opponent is trying to get done. And if you know this stuff, this is absolutely the time where you need to make sure you put it to use and you deny further swarm host waves from doing too much. You deny them from pulling you around. You need to be on top of where the Niduses may be. You need to be on top of getting those killed off and cancelled. If you're not on top of that stuff, I think you could be in for a very bad time in general. As you do see, this Knight is going to get up with the support of these roaches. I mean, it's not so bad if the roaches are here, because at least then you're not going to get pulled out of position, as I was just talking about a little bit. Again, for me, there's a lot of different factors that go into winning these upcoming fights for Ryung. Map control and dealing with the Knights is one of them. I'm still just a little bit terrified in general, though. I think that's a fair statement, right? When you look at the map, there's so much creep. There's so much Reynor just already out and about and here, there, and everywhere. He just has so much going on for himself at the moment. And that's what's, again, just absolutely terrifying about playing this kid. He's just so freaking good at just, being mechanically ahead of the game. He gets set up so nicely. Obviously, Swarm Hosts are meant to be controlling. The problem with Swarm Hosts typically is if you lose a wave of Locusts, you're then very vulnerable for a while. We'll see if Ryung can find a fight like that. The thing is, it's Ancient Cistern, so you've got a long map to cross before you can go from kind of having a good fight as the Terran player into having a chance to actually, then go across and punish the Zerg for the situation that kind of arises from that, right? So, like I say, going to be kind of intriguing as we make our way through. Just going to have an hour extra CC on the right side, a few tank shots, trying to just get the defense going as well as absolute best we can. We've seen a few Locusts dropping in. They're going to try and get some shots off as well. And they are going to get in for potentially a couple of tanks, getting close at least to grabbing one or two. So nice to get a little bit more done. Decided that already. Just going to be having our defense from the Ryung holding out though. And again, that's a good sign. He's holding on. He's showing signs of life. He's absolutely not making this a complete walkover for Reynor, most importantly, right? This is not going to be a complete walkover. This is going to be pretty darn competitive for the most part here. As the scan comes out, a couple of those units getting chased around just a little bit as well. Now we're going to be having, on top of this, our extra Bane's Morphing Man. It feels like Reynor's base is now up in front of the base of Ryung, though. Because Ryung is just being, had this much creep kind of pushing towards him. It feels like the Zerg can just set up very comfortably on creep, and he's right outside the Terran's base, which gives you absolute freedom. You barely even need Nidus networks to transport these swarm hosts around, which is obviously not a great deal on the Terran side of things. That's absolutely horrendous, in fact. So yeah, that's definitely pretty nasty. So we've seen our Banes and our Roaches come to move through a couple of moments, and well, these Banes are going to try and find what they can. They actually do start a clip onto a couple of Ghosts at the very tail end of that as well, so just in a little extra. And I really do feel as though this game is getting very out of hand for Ryung, because again, he's kind of making a good show of hanging on in there. He's making a good show of not getting kind of overrun or anything, but I just feel like there's so much to do to make me truly a believer in this. And well, like I say, I can still be convinced. I'm not completely kind of feeling as though this is completely over for Ryung, but it's definitely not looking great. He needs to take some really incredible fights very soon is the most important part. Like, he needs to start taking some good trades. He needs to start seeing some bits and pieces that are actually going to benefit him. Otherwise, this first game is absolutely going to be Reynor's, Basilisks, in this very important series that can decide who finishes first place in the group, which means you start in the grand finals, by the way, if you finish first in your group. That's the importance of this match. Ryung tilting his head, knowing that this fight was not really it. Seeing a lot of, well, pieces of the puzzle just kind of missing for him right now, really not going the way he would want it to. And like I say, this game is truly, I think, just coming towards a little bit of a close. And as Reynor is just, I mean, he controls the map again. He doesn't actually have a huge bank. I would have thought that Reynor might have had a little bit more in the bank at any point in time here. That's not actually been the case. But, well, yeah, there's a few more Locusts drop down. We see those Ghosts going to have to try and retreat away, so they're going to back away from there as well. Giving up a little bit of space as Now this Lingbane Ravager just finds the chance to come running straight on forward, running straight on through. Having a good old time of it, like we've kind of mentioned a few times already. I really do feel as though we are on some of the last legs for Ryung in this first game. You know, it's a difficult one because, like, then what does Ryung do different, you know? It feels like we've done nothing but kind of criticize him the whole way through. I mean, I liked his choices. I liked how he kind of set up to play as well. I genuinely think he did, you know, he made the right choices in my eyes. He did the right things in my eyes. I just feel as though playing against Reynor, I feel like it's just so tough on Ancient Cistern. But map 2 will be the Terra map pick, and so in terms of maybe getting an entertaining series, maybe then I'm a little bit more into this still, because then you can have a little bit of a peek into map 2 and a little bit of a look to see whether or not that is a map that then, you know, being able to kind of pick your own map, you can do a lot better on as well, right? As units just stand up in the center. Scan coming now, keeping track of things just a little bit here. As our Lingbane Ravager going to go for an advance on forward, making a move up into the center. Two snipes coming down as Ryung is, I mean, he's just not capable of rebuilding on the back of this, is what it really comes down to as well, more than anything else. Like, his chance to reproduce is just absolutely bare minimum because he just doesn't have that much, guys. He really does not, and you know, as he gets pushed back every single time, Reynor is just remaxing, getting ready to go again. Reynor is still playing this pretty low-tech units, and obviously, efficiency-wise, you would kind of expect the Terran to be quite far ahead, but it's actually pretty even in terms of efficiency. I guess that's the power of the Swarm Host, but it's also the power of just Reynor's position in this game, basically, because, again, that's not exactly pretty either. You don't want to be in a setup where your opponent has, you know, similar efficiency when they've got that many more bases. That really is kind of a no-go. That kind of does mean you're losing the game as well. That really is just the definition of losing, I think, actually, in a game of StarCraft 2. As Reynor will maybe not quite finish off Ryung just yet. We have a few more moments, but again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but it feels like we're on the last stand. It feels like we're on the last few moments. And again, unfortunately, I felt like it was a bit of a broken record all game because this wasn't a pretty situation at any stage. Here we go then, game number 2. Second round of action begins between Reynor and Ryung. As we do have obviously best of 2 here, 2 maps are played. And then we move into Maru versus Trigger, then Serral versus Soul as we continue through the overall best of 7 of this World Team League matchup. Final match for both these teams, as we've mentioned a couple times at this stage. Bottom right is Ryung, top left is Reynor. Ryung built his barracks at home, so immediately if you were thinking maybe Ryung's going to just crank out a proxy or so, you were wrong. He's not just going to crank out a proxy or so, he is going to have something of a game plan heading into this next game. Something of a game plan. Barrack's going to be finishing up on the high ground there, just getting that going in the early few moments. Reaper, Orbital, Command Center all coming through. We do have ourselves the early game with the Reaper, of course, will already be a little bit more kind of maybe attention based. Obviously, last game was pretty passive to start us out, in fact. At least it felt pretty passive to start us out last time. We didn't really have too much happening straight away or anything, so yeah, maybe we could see something a little different coming in this game, a little bit more, like I say, aggression right off the bat. Reaper tries to just fight through. I was expecting a Hellion follow-up to this as well, and obviously going to deny the creep spread a little bit, which really did just go unchecked last time around. Reaper drops in, a grenade, Queen gets blasted over the sides. Starting us out for the first few moments. We're just pulling through, just going to be seeing a couple of SCVs, a starport, etc. All the good stuff currently coming up as I get that set in the early few seconds. Reaper. Trying to see what's going on as that barracks lifts off. Starport will move across to that deck lab in the next couple of moments here. A little bit of creep spread already pushing out into the center for the moment. And a couple of Hellions going to continue around. We do have Banshee on the way up from Ryung as well, as he's going to play the cloaking to aid those Banshees a little bit in these early stages. Just going to be setting up with all of that for a little while here. Just going to be seeing our couple of Hellions continue to move through to the middle of the map. The Reaper along with them. And again, Cloak coming up, Banshee coming in, a couple more refineries are being brought up as well for the moment. Hellions will grab one Zergling already down on the bottom side. The Reaper and the Hellions together, joining across the left. Double armory. We are indeed going to see mech. As I said, this is a map you can play mech on again, so again, if you really just believe that that is your best possible shot here, then that kind of does make sense as your choice. Can be seen a double factory behind this then. With the double armor, you got quite a little bit of upgrade focus starting you out against this into this mech play. So we'll see. Maybe there could be some kind of like timing window here where you're aiming to just hit with like a very strong set of mech upgrades. It's not usually kind of a mech thing, it's much more of a bio thing, but maybe Ryung has something cool planned. Maybe there is really like some kind of genius to what he wants to set up for in this. Definitely plausible. Yeah, Banshee's going through, a few drones already beginning to drop, so not a bad starting point. There's a little bit of that economy damage dealt already. Work our way through this to begin with. Purchase will meet a few of these Hellions already coming across the map. Reynor brings some of the fight to his opponent. And again, just going to carapace, and as he really figures out what's going on, we'll see if he makes any adjustments on the tail end of this game. Again, information. Always pretty important to have, always pretty nice to have. That's definitely something which Reynor is trying to keep, as these Hellions going to make a dive into the main base. We'll probably just go all the way into the main right. Evo Chambers will start to come up defensively against... into that main base as well, so we'll go straight for this. And these drones currently are running out of trouble, staying out of the way. Now we lose 4, but if this is only 4, that's pretty impressive, because that was a lot of Hellions that got in. So I'd say that that's actually not just impressive, but a pretty clean victory on the side of Reynor. He's very happy with that. Of course, Hellions are so much more replaceable here when you're playing this, mech style, so it's not the end of the world to kind of throw a chunk of Hellions away to do some damage like this, but... generally, again, moments like that, you really feel like you want to get a bit more. You really feel like there should be a little bit more available. And in this case, that just wasn't quite true. Just didn't quite find much more. 4 drones, again, not going to be too game-changing. As Reynor heads into not just missile upgrades, but also the Spire, so he's shown us a general plan as to what he would like to do in the next little portion of this game as well. As our 1-1 missile upgrades come up, the Roach Speed is coming through as well. So again, just a lot of getting set here at the moment. Infesta also being brought out. Three more factories continue to get brought up into play. So again, just getting as much production going as we really can for now. And that is going to be what Ryung sits back on. And I do feel like there's going to be a sitting back game. Obviously, Reynor not going to play this one the same way he played the last. Last time he played much more... kind of aggressively with the Swarm Host. This time he's going to play the Hive and the Spire. Potential just to go very quickly towards Broodlords, for example, is one of the things we could see here. A few tanks come moving across over the sides. The Raven. The Raven is obviously kind of something I didn't mention, but it's kind of cool to see the Raven up and about. One of those choices which allows you to just be that little bit aggro and, you know, not have to spend your scan every single time to clean up group spread is one of the benefits of it. It's always been debated quite heavily whether or not that's actually kind of a worthwhile thing to build in TVZ, and a lot of people will say not really, just for the fact that it is, you know, kind of expensive. It's obviously cheaper nowadays. So we grab a first infestor with these Banshees. That's a nice grab. It's one of those things where it's like, well, surely it's always good, but yeah, it's not always good enough that people build one every game still, right? That's still a... I guess it's not really up in the air per se, but it's still kind of... I guess kind of something to think about. I've always been intrigued by the TVZ Raven discussion. I've had plenty of time arguing that I don't think a Raven's very good in every game. As we're 10 minutes in here on Near Humanity, there's a lot more to life than the Raven. As you have the Broodlords already popping out, Thors and Vikings in preparation from Ryung, so he does seemingly know roughly what Reynor is heading towards. He does roughly know what he needs to be on top of, as the couple of Banshees will come through and pick their way through a Roach on the Watchtower there for a couple of seconds. Is obviously a good bit of fun as well. There's just going to be some of that little bit of group spread being knocked down, so doing our best possible with that for the moment. Well, he's getting chased back around. Just going to be seeing the Broodlords are still setting up in the center, and they are going to be a major part of this game now. For Reynor, they're going to be his real kind of army composition. It's interesting because this is the kind of setup which really could lead us into a little bit of a macro game. I remember during Home Story Cup, Reynor really made a big thing of letting us know he was the macro monster now, but I really felt like in the past Reynor was very just... Not that he didn't want to play the macro game a lot of the time, he just felt like, I don't need to play the macro game, you know? Like, you know, prove to me that you don't, you know, we should play a macro game and survive, you know, me being a bit more aggressive. Nowadays, he's not wrong. He really is just so much more accepting of the fact that these games can go a bit longer, that these games might go into a little bit of a later stage game, right? Roach is currently coming across the map for a counterattack. Let's see how Ryung does against that, as the initial push from Ryung, I do not feel like is looking too hot, as Broodlords are going to find these couple of siege tanks in the front, so that doesn't feel like that's quite the exact setup we were looking for. Not straight away at the very least. Those coming through, those Roaches taking quite a bit of damage. Let's see, in the end, this is 5 SCVs, but it also keeps Ryung a little bit busy in his base, right? And again, I think that's anything that forces multitasking, anything that forces kind of just multi-pronged efforts in general is going to favor Reynor. We know he's a fast player. He's always played like that. And yeah, he's just trying to keep Ryung on the back foot. We talked a lot about mechanics at the start of game 1 of this series, and a lot of that is very much so just this coming into play, right? Reynor's trying to make this a quick game. Ryung's trying to keep this a nice slow game. Just two very different approaches at this point in time. Infestors sitting below this Broodlord army. It doesn't really feel like Reynor is in any rush at all to kind of set up into anything too wild at the moment, as Thors, Vikings, the Raven sat out in the center as well. A few tanks coming around the edges, trying to keep some of the bases that Reynor's trying to establish under control. Last thing you want is for the game to be too kind of heavy with hatcheries, too easy for Reynor to keep on expanding with, right? So, can we do what we can in regards of controlling those as Ryung There's these few tanks. Actually give a pretty good check on this left-hand side of the map. I've got to say I'm impressed with how much they've achieved. They've done a lot more than I initially thought they would. Now we have this big push coming, and, well, now finally we actually get a question whether this large fight is going to be enough. As, yo, Pig, welcome, and hello, everyone, to the World Team League. Thank you so much for the raid, Pig. Hello, hope you guys enjoyed Beyond vs. Hero today, as we have currently Ryung Reynor Game 2 of the World Team League. Ryung, kind of the underdog, but we talked about him harnessing the power of Reynor being the 1-1 man in World Team League. He always ends up going 1-to-1. And, well, this position is not terrible for Ryung. He's playing Meki on New Humanity in this game number 2. He played Mech on Ancient System in game 1. Reynor played Swarm Host. It was pretty one-sided. This game 2 has been a little bit closer. Not a lot has really happened in 14 minutes. It's been pretty slow going. It has really been kind of slow going, actually. And we're still kind of in that phase as well, where we're still sort of almost waiting for stuff to happen still. We had one big push here and there. A couple of bases have been denied, but if you talk about like real serious things that have happened out and about on the map just yet, it's still pretty minimal. Still pretty minimal. Broodlords are going to start pushing forward a little bit now. Of course, the fun thing about Neo Humanity, I guess, is the fact you kind of get into these positions very quickly. As you do have these bases start to get very close to each other the deeper into the game that you go. These forward positions getting taken, etc. Definitely have a little bit of an impact. We're going to see those Broodlords and Corruptors together are going to make a pretty good bid for getting rid of the forward hatchery. We still have bases of the Zerg going down as well, though, so both players are taking some shots right here, guys. Both players are taking some shots, both players taking some damage. We are not exactly having a clean-cut game. Both players losing a few workers. Now, Ryung loses that forward base. How much more important is Ryung's base to Reynor's? And I say this in the sense of, you know, does Reynor just have so many more bases? Reynor holds 6, Ryung holds 5. I would say the forward base, honestly, it's not like an absolute essential for Ryung to have held this, so I actually think this was a fine trade. The fact he is doing some amount of damage on the tail end of this as well is definitely going to be helpful. It definitely pushes him in the right kind of direction, keeps him going the right sort of track. Thor's coming back around the right-hand side here. We'll get set up a little bit as well, so they're just going to make their way through. Looking for a big push with everything together as the Terran player. Maybe an opportunity right now for Ryung. He clearly seems to think there's at least something going to be, I mean, worth pushing for, I suppose, at the very least. As our army sets up in the middle for the moment, just going to be seeing a couple of ghosts on the way up. So Ghost Academy's coming through. Sorry, that's going to mean more nukes. And that's apparently now the kind of game we're playing here from Ryung's point of view. It's slow enough that he can justify committing into a whole bunch of nukes, which is not necessarily always the case. Nukes do add up in cost. They cost 100 gas each, right? So it's the kind of thing that you do generally want to be a little cautious of kind of spending money on. You want to really make sure you can afford to do that. Yeah, that's what I mean. This is what I'm saying. Ryung's really, so far, seems pretty confident in this, and the top right base tries to get established again here from Reynor. Let's see if he can actually get this truly up and rolling. He's starting to get some spore crawlers and stack defenses into the middle of the map as well, knowing that that's only going to help improve his situation. It's just working on those as we go. Thors and the Hellbats now making their way into the center as well. And this push coming up, it's going to be this push down the left-hand side, in fact, to try and really make a little bit of a difference here. Let's see if it can be good enough to take down some bases. We are knocking this top right base down slowly but surely with the power of nukes. So nukes are coming through, and we really are now seeing, I want to say, pretty much everything in this game, man. This turned into a game of all sorts. This game number 2 between Reynor and Ryung, 18 minutes deeper on Neo Humanity. Ryung's map pick as well, right? He chose to play this kind of game. He really believes he can take on Reynor a little bit in the later stages. He does nuke down a spine crawler there, so a little bit more of a successful nuke than just some damage on a structure, which is kind of what the nukes have been up until this point. +3 melee, +3 carapace, +3 flyer attacks. Talk about just going, you know, for pretty much everything as well. Reynor is getting each and every possible upgrade available to him. Absolutely no messing around for him as Ryung rotates back around the right side. I mean, this map is really a tale of just left versus right. It's not super complicated, right, in that regard, at least. And it's pretty simple. You kind of have a very easy switch around as well. You can go left to right very quickly, and that's obviously usually a pretty big deal breaker too. Makes life a little bit easier to get established on and so on. So we've seen a little scan out, see what we're perhaps about to have happening here as well. So we've seen our Lings and our Roaches make their way around the left side. The Ghost actually gets killed here. We've had a lot of Ghosts getting connections with those nukes, and they started to get into pretty interesting positions as well. Like, they really started to work their way into some fun corners, some fun angles that Reynor wasn't expecting. Otherwise, he might have been a little bit better at dealing with some of these nukes. Not that they've done mega damage, but they have snuck in for some spines. They have snuck in between bases that I feel like Reynor should have had, again, a bit better control over. So, trying to be on top of that now. 19 minutes deep here. Still looking to see which of these two will maybe start to make a decisive turn, as this time, again, the Ghost is getting shut down. And maybe there is a point where you just need to lay off the nukes for a few moments. Maybe not entirely, but even just for like a little while. Like, if Reynor right now is thinking about nukes every second of the day, maybe it's not a great time to be like, oh yeah, let's nuke you, right? Like, if he's already thinking about dealing with those Ghosts instead, take a little bit of time, right? Set up in a little bit of a slower manner, and just sort of say, hey, look, like, let's not nuke for a while, and then boom, nukes are back, and you've got to kind of reset your mental kind of position as Reynor to kind of then be able to deal with nukes again. An option, as Ryung just goes rotating around the sides. Builds up at the top, try and find a little bit of something. We do have the Brutes coming back across then. Just moving by for the moment here. As GCR Lings continue to get surround here, surround there. Hellbat's putting some work in. Trying to get a little bit more something done. Big fights. Actually, as a lot of these Lings go down without really getting much done at all. So this is going to be pretty serious for a couple of moments as Reynor. Gotta be careful, gotta respect this mech army. Both players sit at about 140 army supply as well, also worth noting, because we'll see at this point we could see a disparity in workers, but it does mean that there's pretty much everything you could possibly want here in terms of, matching armies. Neither player is going to feel like they are kind of at the disadvantage going into a fight in terms of at least army size. Sometimes the Zerg fights with much smaller armies and much more larger economies so that they can then rebuild and go again a second time around. 40, can we see units lost? Unfortunately, this is a clean feed, mate, so I have no control over what we look at in-game. This is a Chinese observer showing us whatever he wants to look at, which right now is a Blinding Cloud and a Fungal Growth, so trying to get a couple of shots off there, going actually pretty successfully, I would say. Slime's coming through in return, as we do see the Broodlord's taking a little bit of damage. Ryung still looking fairly comfortable in this position, I have to say. Like, I feel like he's not quite, I don't know if I expected Ryung to be more concerned, almost. I don't know what I don't know. I guess I just felt like Ryung going into this sort of stage of the game might just look a little bit more unsettled, might look a little bit less, solid at this point, but that's not really turned out to be the case at all. Ryung is in fact being very good, as you see the Broodlings though. In very high numbers, going to be very difficult to deal with that, and that's just going to be a consistent problem that we have to watch for and try and deal with as we move through and around. Abducting the Medivac, which has the Thor inside for another Fungal Growth. Do we have a way to actually finish this off? I think we do. And now the anti-armor missile goes down though, which makes it very difficult to justify those Broodlords kind of being forward in the fight as well. So that gets a little bit awkward for a couple of moments. Big fight, Blind Clouds on the Thors as well, so that's also going to be definitely a major part of this. Can these Broodlords hold on against these Thors? The Thors not fully able to get their shots off because of the Blinding Clouds, and again, just everything kind of catching them and stopping them from, being able to move forward at every single point in time. Gather on up, we're just going to be seeing Ryung still holding out in the middle of the map. One of the big things here is that so far Reynor's not really mined anything from Ryung's side of the map as well, which means that as the game continues through, typically the Zerg is going to want to try and mine something on the side of the Terran player just to kind of put them into a little bit of a better position and to take some of the economy away in a game that typically does trade better for Terran than it does a Zerg. But yeah, Ryung's been very good at kind of keeping the base count even, keeping that very competitive, absolutely refusing to let that go into anything of a better scenario, I suppose. Brutes, Corruptors, Overseers hanging out overhead. As you have Hellions and Thors moving around the right-hand side. That's continuing to push some damage into this at the moment as we have our game taking a few moments then, I guess, to settle. And should you kind of stop for a couple seconds at least. That's going to get rid of this left side base. Still a little bit mining available here. This is the kind of base you don't really want to give up, but Reynor's struggling to keep up. Broodlords are slow, man, even on this map, which I say is kind of narrow left to right. Sometimes it feels like for the major attack paths, but I guess when you're going from base to base, especially, it does feel a little bit longer. Just seeing now, Brood's going to get rid of the forward command centers. This planetary fortress will go down. Bane sitting underneath Ryung. Kind of rich mineral-wise, but doesn't have too much on the gas, which is why it's actually quite nice for him if he can make a couple things happen here and there just off of the back of Hellions, Hellbats, mineral-based units. He's starting to lose a lot of his structures here as well, mine, so that's something else we're going to just, I guess, be concerned about for a few moments longer. Actually is losing a lot of these orbital commands. That is definitely starting to add up a little bit. Hellbat's moving out down to the bottom. We do have a nuke! Actually lands on the edge of Reynor's army. It's only 30 supply. 1 second later on the nuke, it could have been so big. He has a scan. He can EMP the Infestors a little bit here. Takes a bunch of the energy off them. It's a massive opportunity here for Ryung as he knows it. He's got the anti-armor missile on. He had a great start with the nuke leading into this. The blinding cloud buys a little bit of time for Reynor. He brings his Infestors back to this fight. Banelings are coming forward. The nuclear parasites onto some Thors though. And that's maybe going to help turn this around as Thors are fighting Thors. Broodlings are taking the attention. Ryung's supply begins to plummet as Reynor turns the nuke into an opportunity. He kills every single Thor bar one. And that is a massive shutdown and turnaround from Reynor. Ryung thought he had everything, and he didn't have it. As Reynor wins the fight, and Ryung does not have the gas to rebuild with. We've just talked about how he's a mineral machine, but he does not have a gas economy. Reynor gets the big fight in the end, as this chase forward from Ryung just wasn't it. The blinding cloud was great, and I think the problem is he really tried to run into a little bit too strong of a position, because the Thors weren't spread out, right? The Thors were very much so stacked in one single position, in the blinding cloud. They were not spread in the concave, and so Reynor got a lot of stuff into the fight. Ryung really struggled to get a lot of stuff into the fight. And we're just going to be seeing the orbital command already going down. The Broodlords coming through, the Ravagers as well. Ryung going to spread to try and take this battle. Will he be able to? Gets the anti-armor missile. He's going to put these units on lower armor. I just don't know if he's got quite the composition to fight against all these Ravagers, for example. A lot of Infestors in the back are low energy, so they don't have too much to add to this. A few Vikings are not being answered at all, so the Broodlords are starting to go down. The Thors are holding. Reynor is not going to succeed in pushing forward. Do we have a few more Viking shots for these Broods? It would be so good to just get rid of those. Reynor's bank is now being brought low. Reynor's bank is now running out a little bit. The last few Vikings are chasing. There is no anti-air. There's no fungals available. Every single Broodlord is starting to fall. 4 Broodlords remain. There's a Corruptor that shows up. Furrows of File lands. So we only have 2 Broodlords left. Now 1 Broodlord left, and every single Broodlord is going to die in this game. Ryung is going to shut down Reynor's army, and he is not going to fall without a fight. That was a massive trade. Look at that, 4.3k gas, but 300 in that trade out. Reynor has just lost so much of the advantage he set up for himself with that previous trade. And this game, 30 minutes of absolute chaos, and it is absolutely beautiful StarCraft, as we are going to go back and forth apparently to start out this whole best of 7. I mean, what a turnaround as well from game number 1, because game number 1 really was Reynor. And this game, I wouldn't say it's been Ryung, but it's been a lot more competitive just between the two, right? And, well, just like I say, kind of awesome stuff here as we have had a hell of a games thus far. And it's still up in the making right now. Reynor's bank is gone, by the way. I actually think this becomes a problem given a little bit more time. This actually could be a serious issue, so maybe something we keep our eyes on. No money left for Reynor in the bank. Mining is obviously still kind of being limited. The left side and far right side bases have not been allowed to mine throughout. Ryung has done a great job denying those. And he just makes sure that this essentially stays at a pretty equal economy all the way through. We see now Command Center taking a little bit more damage for a few moments. Just going to be having now other units getting set up. Couple drones going down. Hellbat's actually going to get in over here. Reynor only has 30 drones. If that Hellbat kills a bunch of workers, that could be big. Oh, we get a good start of this fight, though. The Infestor's getting the jump. And these Infestors have a ton of energy again, and that's going to be a problem for Ryung. Whenever this fight really breaks out, that those Infestors can create so much of a window. Neural is still active here. We got the single Hellbat up in a medevac. Not sure if that's going to necessarily find anything in these next few moments. More Hellbats just taking some shots for the moment. Still taking a couple of hits here and there. Scan coming out. Roach Ravager going to be looked at. Another nuke trying to land. The Ghost will survive to see the nuke fall, but of course Reynor is not going to stick around to see it. He's seen, I think, one too many nukes for himself in this game. I don't think he's got any further interest in meeting a nuke close up once more. Although, I guess getting nuked was a pretty good experience for him because he won the fight afterwards. Reynor does dip below on supply. Again, his bank is drained. This is really about just whatever resource they can gather as we go at this point in time. Hellbats over here will go down in the medevacs. That little bit of harass dies off as you see an attempt to move forward here from Reynor. Actually gets the Thorn, the Corrosive Vial, which is a cute little move, all things considered. Means the resource lost this game. Equal minerals, equal gas. It's actually pretty good for the Zerg if they were ever able to mine more, which is usually the case. But in this case, we've actually not really seen that be the case, so maybe this doesn't really matter. Maybe that's actually then quite good for the Terran, as long as we don't let that far right base mine. If that far right base mines, Reynor has so much money that then Ryung has to overcome in some way. That could absolutely be a problem. Ravagers coming through, a couple Baals coming out. We're seeing the Roach Ravager laying back around the other direction now. Coming through, a couple of spores, Spinecrawler coming in over on this edge as well. Well, that's what I said was important to deny this right side base. We do kind of move up there. We kind of need to know where those Infestors are. These Infestors will create a lot of the opportunities in these upcoming fights, so it's kind of important we do something about them before they get too out of hand or anything. As you land a Viking. Trying to get that Viking to take some tank fire, but Oh, I guess just the Broodlord's going to attack. That makes sense as well. Ryung scan providing the information right now for him to know a little bit of what's going on. Medevac's coming over with ghosts involved. He knows these infestors are here. He's going to get some EMPs off. But can he capitalize? Can he do anything beyond? Because he does lose out on both of those ghosts. So does he have a fight now? He's going to start chasing because he knows these units are low. So he really believes that this is his moment to actually make this happen. Let's see if it's true or not. Ryung comes. At the very least, I guess he's going to shut down the base. And maybe that's all he really wants to take out of this. Ryung, 156 to Reynor's 128 army supply. Reynor on the bottom left. Ryung was trying to get that base set up for himself. Has not been able to still. A couple shots going down. For just a couple of moments, nothing too spicy, as we do have Hellions finding 13 drones. Well, it's about a quarter of Reynor's economy at this stage, just suddenly getting deleted. Scan comes out. EMP is landing again, keeping the infest energy low. Keeping the those roaches just making peace with the Terran. What the hell's going on over there? What was that? Yeah, that was a little bit weird. Definitely a few interesting moments throughout this game. Now we've got Ryung trying to push through a choke point. Say it ain't so. I just do not believe that this is going to end up well for him. But maybe. I mean, the EMPs have again been decent. Keeping the infestors on pretty low energy. Ryung is pushing through. About 30 army supply. You see now roaches set out over on the far left-hand side. We do have our batch is going to go in for a couple of extractors. Tank shots, getting rid of a few roaches here. Little bits of extra damage being done. Because the power's going to knock down the siege tank there, just for a moment or two. We have ourselves the army still poking around the left-hand side. Ghosts trying to get set up, trying to find themselves the leading charge. 50 army supply lead currently, favoring Ryung. Onsyde Gaming are going to be loving this result. This gives them an amazing setup in this series. Really puts the pressure on a player like Trigger going up against Maru next to potentially deny an ace match. I didn't really mention it, but it is possible as well where if we go to an ace match, it doesn't matter what happens. If we go to an ace match, even if Basilisk win, Onsyde Gaming are guaranteed to win the league in the regular season. So actually the ace match is enough just to guarantee Onsyde first place. So actually that's a pretty big deal as well, because Basilisk will never be able to overtake the map scores. This is the fight, but you can just see that this is a disaster. Infestors are going down as they approach, and Reynor taps GG's. Ryung gets the win, and he brings the power of the 1-1 curse to his favor. And he puts himself into a great position for Onsyde. Like I say, this is going to set them up brilliantly, as now Trigger